Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a beautiful December 4th, 2019. I'm your host, CRUSTY CANUCK, and on today's podcast, I call it Two-Faced Trudeau. Him and his screw-ups and more coming up on the CRUSTY CANUCK podcast. Stay tuned.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you all know it will be.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the CRUSTY CANUCK podcast. I'm your host, CRUSTY CANUCK, and today, on this beautiful December 4th, 2019, the festive season. Yes, Christmas is coming upon us. The season of giving and forgiving and all that good stuff, and lots of food and liquor and whatever else strikes your fancy in this festive season. Always remember that we still have leadership that really doesn't give a fuck about you and me. Yes, according to the news today, especially CTV News, Global, the Washington Post, a few of the articles that I have read, basically Trudeau, well, another folly. He's in London doing a London summit for our NATO allies and all that good stuff, and still, Trudeau fails to perform. Now, some of you might think that Donald Trump should mind his own business and quit telling other countries what to do, and respectively so. Yes, I'm not one that's going to tell Britain to upgrade this, or tell France to do this, or tell Germany to do that. But when it comes to a NATO agreement that was signed back in the 1940s after World War II, and every country is responsible to look after its military accordingly and properly, Canada still fails. Right? Yeah, I've said this before in numerous episodes, and where Canada lacks, right, longevity and procurement, especially when it comes to our defense spending. Right now, a good part of this morning, I'll leave links at the end of this podcast here, but every 15 minutes, everyone's talking about how Donald Trump called Justin Trudeau two-faced, and rightfully so. There's footage of him sitting there gossiping with Macron and Boris Johnson and other political leaders talking about how, he was late for 40 minutes to a press conference and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what if, Justin? How many conferences and events have you been late to? Right? This last election proves exactly where you're coming from. Right? You spent the better part of a summer campaigning in the country, telling Canadians about this and about that and how we have to get along and we have to be united. And yet, because of some of your fuck-ups, you instigated another Quebec uprising, i.e. all the block seats. And because of your fuck-ups, you instigated dissension in the West, alienated the West, right? And then you had the audacity to represent us on the world stage, calling Donald Trump whatever you called him. I forget the term was, but rightfully so. Mr. Trump turned around calling you two-faced. Really? Well, you're obviously not doing much to keep relations open. Now, to my American listeners and my American friends out there, we have a putz for a prime minister. Regardless of how some of you think about diversity and inclusion and all that stuff, I'm all for diversity and inclusion. I'm all for hiring the right people for the right job. And I don't care what color you are or what you preach to or what identity you come up with. If you got the qualifications for said job, as far as I'm concerned, you got it. But our last federal election has proven otherwise. Right? Here again, we got Mr. Trudeau in NATO. Instead of discussing his socks like he's done the last 4 times, he's actually showed up and discussed some kind of policy. And rightfully so for Mr. Trump to put him on the spot and ask him what he's actually spent. Now, from what I've seen here, and from serving members, and from procurement points of view, he hasn't done much, ladies and gentlemen. Really, a tiny country compared to the United States, like us, 37 million people, we do not spend the 2% GDP, that's gross domestic product, on our military. I think one of his advisors said, we're spending 1.4%. Well, that's just not good enough, right? Now, historically, when you look at liberal leadership in this country, since 1968, there's been cut after cut after cut after cut after cut after cut, and doing the bare minimum Always, right? If those individuals that served during the 90s and the decade of darkness, you know what I'm talking about, right? Those individuals that remember all the news conferences that the Chrétien government and the eventual Paul Martin government put together there from 99 to 2000, saying, oh yes, we're combat ready, when we weren't. You know, Chrétien even said himself, oh, we have an army of 70,000 people. That's not the army, Mr. Chrétien, that's the whole military. Right? So you put that in perspective. And now we're having our allies, especially our biggest ally, the United States, saying, step up to the plate. What's the excuse? If we can give away billions of dollars to help little girls in small African countries get an education, if we can hand out billions of dollars to fight the climate change, the climate catastrophe, we can bloody well spend a few more millions of dollars, or even $1 billion or more, on getting our defense up to snuff. And that's not the American standard, that's the NATO standard. Now, part of me is libertarian. I don't believe in fighting in foreign wars anymore. I don't believe in getting our nose in places where it doesn't really belong. But if we're going to look after this democracy, it has to be defended. Period. Right? Contrary to the popular belief of peace, love, harmony, and all that other kumbaya stuff, we, as a nation, we need to defend this country properly. Now, don't expect magical things to happen overnight. We don't. I learned that the hard way while serving. Right? You've got all these procurement boards that sit around and scratch their ass and scratch their balls and pick their nose going, well, gee, what's this blueprint going to dictate? Or what's this part for? What's that part for? How much are we going to spend in this part? Is it made in Canada? Does it have Canadian identity? Right? And now with the clowns in charge, they're constantly worried about the social impact of building things. Right? Everything from building a ship to building a road to a bridge and to a fucking pipeline. So, you know, right there, nothing's going to get done. So after watching today's news and reading said articles, which I will put on the end of my podcast here, it just goes to prove what kind of leadership we still have, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I know the Liberals are a minority government, okay? And Andrew Scheer made a comment today about getting to work and getting things done. Okay, bravo to him, sir. And, of course, you know, the NDP and their infinite wisdom. Free blankets for everybody, right? Yeah, bullshit. These clowns should have gotten to work October 23rd, right? They should have been at work right after the election. It's now December 4th. So, of course, they're going to have the throne speech tomorrow and meet in Parliament and have another couple of weeks of fucking philandering and baffle gabs, and then they're going to be off again for the Christmas break. How convenient. So, to my listeners and fans out there, let's start thinking about who we're going to keep putting in charge of this country, and who are we going to allow to call the shots, right? We got a Liberal government that created more cabinet positions. You know, the cabinet position of middle-class prosperity and assistant to the finance minister. We know what that fucking means, right? I'll leave information to that clown's link too. You saw her on CTV. She had no idea what the fuck she was talking about. You know, she gets paid $260,000 a year to tell you and I what we can do with our money. Again, like we need more of those people telling us what to do. Yes, there I said it. More of those people telling us what to do. Oh, shit, I'm just so prejudiced today. My goodness. No, I'm not prejudiced, folks. I'm just tired of people's bullshit. Anyway, tell me what you think. You reach me at CrustyBCanuck67@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook under Crusty Canuck, or find me on the Instagram at CANUCK Crusty. Right? Or here in the Podbean, you can leave a comment or two, or on YouTube, you can find me there under Crusty Canuck. Tell me what you think. Well, I'm just flabbergasted. You know, all day the fucking news report. Oh, someone called Justin Two-Faced. Whoop-de-fucking-do. He is. His whole cabinet's two-faced. How else do you promote that? How else do you explain that to people? Right? His whole cabinet's fucked. Right? You know, let's create more government positions that the taxpayer does not need. Right? You know, what gets me too is that Mr. Trudeau had the audacity to say, oh, we are spending money. We are spending money. Which he's partially right. You know, they spent money on persecuting and prosecuting Mr. Mark Norman, who found a better deal on a supply ship, who basically saved the Canadian taxpayer, I think, roughly $89 or $90 million, because the contract that was already bought and sold under the Harper government was doing a wonderful job, yet the Liberals, of course, wanted to get Irving. So I don't have any proof of that, but that's what I read, and if you need, I will get a link to that if I can. But that's what I heard through the grapevine. Anyhow, so that speaks for itself. Yeah, so I guess you can say they were spending on defense, spending money on how to defend themselves from their own bullshit. And of course, buying the old F-18s to replace our old F-18s, right? Because that's the thing to do, spend little and dream big, right? Not a very good business model, but you get the point, okay? And of course, buying these icebreakers that are taking, their sweet effing time to get into service, right? So yeah, I guess you can say they are spending money on defense, on defending their stupid decisions and their lackluster performance and their total ignorance towards world affairs and what Canada should do on the world stage. Now, as I said, I don't believe Canada should be involved in a lot of things. You can chastise me later if you'd like, but for being over to places and seeing things and doing things and knowing people and losing people, it puts things in perspective. It also puts things on a bigger perspective where, okay, how are we going to defend this nation if something happens? Now, I'm not saying we're going to get invaded anytime soon, nor am I saying something from the sky is going to fall down and treat the world like, in Independence Day. I don't believe in that shit. But it's good to be ready for something in case, right? You're constantly being told how to prepare for this and prepare for that and prepare for your post-secondary and prepare for life as a young adult and all that good stuff, right? Yeah, we have a government that fails to honor our soldiers, respect our veterans, and respect the serving members of today. Right? So well done on Mr. Trump for saying what he said. And yes, we all know Justin's a true two-faced fucktard. Two-faced Trudy, Detroit. Mr. Two-faced Trudy boy. And cabinet full of naysayers, basically. I don't know what else to say other than that he's full of shit. And Mr. Trump was right. You decide. What if we have another ice storm in parts of Ontario, Quebec, like there was in '98? And what if there's another flood, like there was in the Red River area? Right? What if there's another wildfire in BC, or heaven forbid, another wildfire in the Fort Mac area? Yeah, they called in the troops to fix things. They called in the troops to help out things, right? But you see, every time there's a military convoy, there's also an abundance of rentals too, right? 1 second. Yes, I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. Pardon the interruption there. It was just my lovely wife calling, making sure that I made dinner this evening. And yes, I have. And once again, pardon my absence. I know my last podcast was on the 19th of November. I've been working extra hours. Yes, I've been gainfully employed now for the better part of 4 months. And, well, hey, working like a dog. So my apologies for my tardiness, for not getting podcasts and videos out there to you. Anyhow, back to Mr. Two-Faced Trudy and his infinite wisdom. It speaks for itself, folks. You watch his gestures, you watch how he sits and his body language and his ers and derps and all that yarp stuff. And yeah, it speaks for itself, right? It speaks for itself, ladies and gentlemen. It's nothing new. And with a minority government, he is going to have a fight in his hands. And I hope to God that the Conservatives are actually going to give him a run for his money and actually put him in his fucking place this time. And regardless of what anyone's point of view is toward the Conservative Party or the PPC or the NDP or the Liberals, we've got to get the shit on the go here. Of course, Miss Climate Barbie is no longer Climate Barbie. She's building Barbie. Kind of like Bob the Builder, but far from it, She was one of those advocates for the whole gender impact when it came to building in this country too, and what a fucking con that was. Right, and now she's the Minister of Infrastructure, and she swears to get pipelines on the go. When a year ago, she was dead against it. Right? So what's that tell you? Oh, I guess we need the pipelines after all. Meh. You think? Hmm? Well, of course, let's not promote Canadian values or Canadian ethics, even though Canadian oil is the most ethical oil, I think, next to some of our American friends out there. But in the same sense, you know, she stood against the pipelines. She was all for Bill 69 and Bill 48. You know, the whole gender impact on things, which means fuck all. To be honest with you, right? There's always going to be an impact when you're building things, ladies and gentlemen. It's called progress. You know, that's what we were told as kids. Building a road, progress. Building a bridge, progress. You know, building a divided highway, progress. Not a divided country, but making things unified, right? And these clowns don't know what the hell they're doing. All right, so back to Mr. Two-Faced Trudeau, right? Serves him right. And I'll leave links at the end of the podcast here, but it serves him right. You know, part of being a leadership is taking responsibility for yourself and your troops' actions. You know, taking responsibility, taking the brunt of some of the pain, taking the brunt of some of the effects, and not just dismissing it. That's not leadership, ladies and gentlemen. That's fucking arrogance. And this government has proven how arrogant it really is, especially the past 4 years, right? Giving people jobs that are not qualified to do the job. You know, putting an old police chief in charge of public safety when he doesn't want common folk having guns because it's a threat, so he thinks. You know, putting somebody who is a business journalist as the deputy prime minister, right? Somebody who is, as far as I'm concerned, is not qualified to lead anything, but she'll take all of Justin Trudeau's shit jobs in order to bridge a gap between the West, right? I wonder how she handles bridges, let alone bridging a gap. Of course, Climate Barbie getting a nice cushy job as Minister of Infrastructure. I wonder if she's afraid if someone's going to drop the C-bomb on her again, right? Well, maybe she better get her ass to work. Maybe these clowns better get their asses to work and start working for the Canadian people like they were elected to do, right? Yeah. Well, we'll see. Time will tell, you know. There'll be more controversy, of course, because someone said a terrible thing to Justin Sockboy. Oh my God. Two-Faced Trudeau in his infinite wisdom is starting to wear thin, right? And when you look at the people that voted for these clowns, you know, parts of metropolitan Toronto and Ottawa, and of course Montreal, you know, who just love what Justin's doing. Yes, of course. He's just doing such a wonderful job. Not. Anyhow, tell me what you think. You can reach me at CrustyBCanuck67 at Gmail, or on Facebook at Krusty Canuck, or on the Instagram at Canuck Crusty. Let me know how you feel, folks. Reach out and touch. And if you'd like, if you'd like to hear, I did manage to raise $500 for the Veterans Association Food Bank. My goal was $1,000, but with the time constraints that I did have, I managed to raise $500, and they were sent a check last week. So, good on you to people who have donated. There was about 7 of you, I believe, that did donate. Don't have the list right here, but thank you to my listeners who did contribute and donate. The rest I come up with. I promised them I would give my donation before Christmas, and I did. And it was also because of those 7 individuals that stepped up to the plate. Thank you very much for your support. I know that money will be going to putting some good, nourishing food on the tables of some veterans and to the people who need it. Right. And my offer still stands with my Teespring line. If you would like to purchase a shirt, you can go right to teespring.com under Krusty Canuck merchandise. Find a t-shirt of your choice. If you commit a $5 to $10 contribution a month, either my Subscribe Star or my GoFundMe or my other ways of support, I will mail you a shirt. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. I will mail you a t-shirt of your choice of my Teespring merchandise. And that's if you contribute $5 to $10 a month. Secondary or supplementary income will help a bit here. But if you just want to buy a shirt, go right ahead. If you just want to contribute, you can do that too. Or if not, I'm not going to force you. But every little bit helps, ladies and gentlemen. Every little bit does help. So you can do that. And once Christmas is over, I'm going to work on another goal of possibly another chunky donation to the Veterans Association Food Bank, or I'll find another charity on the other. But Vets Association Food Bank does some wonderful things for the troops. Like I've said, they've built rampways and they've built sedgeways and they've built things for some of our disabled veterans. They've shoveled snow. They've helped some vets find jobs, and they've made sure they've always had something to eat. So my salute and hats off to those individuals down at Veterans Association Food Bank for doing such a wonderful job for our men and women who have done their part for Queen and country. Who up? Anyhow, back on to TwoFaced Trudeau. Right? You would think a man would learn his lesson after the election. Now, what annoys me the most about it is that they spent 2 months, like I said again, 2 months campaigning, big election October, a fucking farce as far as I'm concerned, and now they've had the better part of 2 months off, getting things on the go. So they can sit in Parliament tomorrow for another week and a half or 2 weeks, then have another fucking Christmas break. So shit or get off the pot, folks. Shit or get off the pot. Okay? More and more and more and more, we are seeing lackluster leadership, lazy leadership. No one's taking responsibility for this shit, and it's really starting to piss a lot of us off. And they wonder why Western separation is on the table. Honestly. Right? They wonder why Quebec has stood up. And some of these Quebecers want to separate too. Right? Puts things in perspective. It makes you think, what were they really thinking the whole election? Oh, we have to get in and retain power. They don't give a fuck about the people. They don't. And I'm really starting to lose faith in a lot of these leaders. They don't want to stand up. They don't want to fight. They want to finger point and blame and blame and blame. And yet, if you're an average Canadian, you stand up and you criticize something, you're either labeled a racist or a bigot or a homophobe or a xenophobe or this phobe or that phobe or whatever else they put on their ass to call you for the day. If you stand up and talk about the inequality when it comes to pay in this country, well, you'll be hard-pressed to find it, right? But people get those fucking platforms all the time. That's a fucking joke. And again, we have this Yaniv guy. You've heard me rant about him or her or whatever it's called. Jessica or Jonathan Yaniv complaining about, a gynecologist not wanting to see him. That's because it's a him, not a her. But hey, people make such a big stink about that. So let's get our priorities together, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start thinking reality here. Let's start using common sense here, especially when it comes to these clowns. Right? Let's hold mainstream media accountable. Let's start holding these so-called journalists and experts accountable. Right? Let's start holding our representatives accountable. Right? Give them phone calls, send letters, politely harass them without breaking the law. Right? Question their ability and question their authority. Right? Let's start looking deep into our own personal rights. Let's start looking deep into the Charter of Rights and Freedoms that we have in this country and start using it to the best of our advantage. Okay? And it's just not about the whole 2% GDP going to NATO. It's about the percentage of politicians that take a great big paycheck and do fuck all to earn it. It's about the percentage of politicians that agree with all these policies to help the less fortunate across the planet when we should be helping our less fortunate here, right? In our home and native land. Why don't we think about that? Because it's not politically correct? Well, fuck PC culture, right? Let's be realistic here. Honestly, let's be fucking realistic here. Okay? You see someone struggling, give them a hand. Right? We can do it. We've done it before. Right? Let's start holding these clowns accountable. Like I said, not just for the NATO summit and not just for trade summits and socks. Let's start questioning, asking the hard questions. If any of my journalist buddies are out there listening, I want to start seeing you guys and gals asking the hard questions. Right? If you can't get into a certain symposium or a certain meeting, then fight to get in or pay someone else to get in. Right? Our leaders do it all the time. They're always paying somebody else, passing the buck. We can pass the buck too. But I think our intentions would be a little more sincere and genuine than what our fucking clowns in Ottawa are doing. right? More disingenuous handouts and more bullshit, more pandering to a handful when they should be pandering to the masses, right? But hey, that's another story, right? More people complaining about how their rights are being violated, and yet when they weren't. More people complaining about how, oh, they're offended, and yet nothing happens to you when you're offended. I've been offended. I still went to bed and I still woke up the next day, had all my working parts. Didn't have malaria. I didn't have dysentery. I didn't have a horn grow to my head or anything like that. So I think I do okay. Right? Anyhow, I've been Crusty Canuck. And as I say again, if you'd like to donate, feel free to donate, please. I do have links there where you can support me. And if you have anything to comment, please comment. All comments are welcome. I've had some people try to engage in a debate by throwing insults and arguing with me. If you want to debate me, feel free to debate me. But if you just want to be insulting and want to be rude, I got no time for you. But if you want to engage in debate and have a civil discussion, we can do that. But if you're just going to throw comments and, the typical, oh, you're a fascist or you're a misogynist BS, I don't have time for it. I don't. Those words, all these kids have taken the real meaning out of these words and turned it into a goddamn fashion show, and it's ridiculous. So, like I said, I don't have time for it. But anyway, I have been Crusty Canuck, ladies and gentlemen. That's my spiel for this beautiful December 4th, 2019. And I will do my best to get another video up and running as soon as I can in between my work schedule. And I'll keep on the podcast going on here too. Anyhow, take care of yourselves. Look forward to the festive season, whether you're a Christian or a pagan. Winter solstice is coming upon us, and the Yuletide is always a good thing. It's always good to be with your family and loved ones, the ones you care about this time of year. And if you know anybody who is having a hard time getting ahead, give them a hand. A simple gesture. Go out and buy a coffee card for $10 or $5, and here, Merry Christmas, or a pair of socks. Or a warm toque, or a pair of mitts, something. Just there's ways you can spread the wealth out with having to open up your wallet or your purse. Gestures, kindness. Not like a Mr. Rogers kindness, but you know what I mean. I'm not gonna get that anal, but little gestures here and there go a long way for a lot of people. And like I say, if you know someone's struggling, give them a hand. Give him or her a hand. Give them a hand, whatever you need, or whatever they need. Okay. Anyway, I've been Crusty Canuck, and as always, ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and remember, humanity and merit wins the day. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Because I am hard, you will not fight me. There is no racial bigotry